everyone. Mitch coming in from the Commander Score studio. Welcome to the show. So, even more exciting spoilers are coming down the pike, and yes, one that's probably going to be very expensive. Let's jump into it. Dragon Fire Blade. Here we go. An equipment for a single mana. Equipped creature gets +2/+2 and has hexproof from monocolored. On top of that, equip 4, it's going to cost just like one less. Just one less. Just cost one less to activate for each color the creature targets. Okay, Wizards, you probably could have gone 5 with that, maybe even a little more, but yeah, this is a card that if you've got a commander that has, a decent amount of colors, I'm talking about like 3 plus. I mean, 4 is obviously free. 3 is like, oh yeah, just 1 mana, costs 2 mana in total for +2/+2, hexproof from monocolored. Gross. Yeah, this card is reminiscent of Commander's Plate. It is not Commander's Plate. I'm not saying that. I mean, it can equip a lot easier. It also can, for the right commander, I should say. And it can also just cost 1 to get out and equip right away. Hexproof from monocolored is great, obviously. I mean, saves from plenty of things like Swords of Plowshares, etc., etc. But, of course, yeah, I mean, it's not protection like Commander's Plate, but it's still quite good. So if you've got a commander that's got, again, let's say 3 colors, it only costs 2 mana in total to get this out, pump it +2/+2, and give it hexproof from monocolored. That's quite nice. And if you got a commander that's 4+, I mean, this is just free to get down and attach right away. It is not a mythic like Commander's Plate was. I believe Commander's Plate was a mythic. I'm 99% positive on that. But Commander's Plate's like a $20+ card last time I checked. I don't know if this is going to get up there, but it definitely, in my opinion, is going to be a pretty popular card because, well, the most popular commanders out there tend to be like multiple colors, usually around like 3 colors, of course, and some 4, some 5 as well. So yeah, it's quite a good pump effect. It's quite a good, low the ground way to protect your commander from certain things. I keep saying your commander, but like, you can target other things too. Mostly it's going to be like, oh yeah, pump my commander. And of course, equipment type decks as well are going to absolutely love this. Yeah, go low to the ground, equip right away, right when the commander comes down, a good way to protect it. That is quite huge. I can see this one being decently expensive. Moving on, Lacid Prowler, let's go with that. A 5/5 Snake Ranger for, you guessed it, less than 5 mana. Just 4 in green because power, right? When this creature enters, you may mill cards equal to the number of lands you control. So self-mill, yeah, that could be a great amount. And of course you are in green, so yeah, you're going to have a ton of lands, obviously, because green, right? Renew for 1 in a green, so exile it out of your graveyard, get X counters on target creature X, the number of land cards in your graveyard, activate only as a sorcery. Yeah, this is quite good for a self-mill type strategy. You're going to be able to mill yourself a ton if you've got, other kinds of renew or flashback cards or ways to get things out of your graveyard. Great. Or like a Muldrotha commander where you're like, yeah, I just care about having a lot of things in my graveyard because it's like a second hand. Cool. Good for you. And then you can, of course, utilize it out of your graveyard. Only at sorcery speed, but still a great way to pump something a ton. And of course, if you do have ways to use and abuse an ETB, that can be quite good with this one. It's a very interesting card for the right deck. Next up, we've got Windcrag Siege, yet another one of our great sieges. In this one, here we go. Enchantment for 3 mana in Boros. As it enters, choose Mardu or Jeskai. I've got a feeling it's going to be Mardu a lot of the time. If a creature attacking causes a triggered ability of a permanent you control to trigger, that ability triggers additional time. Basically, Ishin. You have yet another Ishin now for your Ishin deck. Congratulations, Ishin. But if you're a Wolfgar commander playing, no, you can't use it. So there you go. That being said, yeah, doubling up attack triggers, that's quite gross for obviously the right decks out there. You can do some pretty crazy things. Ishin is quite the popular commander. I can see it seeing a lot of play in that deck. And of course, the other side of it, Jeskai, though, at the beginning of your upkeep, create a 1/1 red goblin creature token. It gains lifelink and haste all of turn. That obviously could see play in a good amount of decks as well. I mean, like, again, if that Mardu part didn't exist, you'd probably be like, yeah, that other part is probably to see the most play. That other part's quite good. Again, making a token every single turn, a hasty token that can swing right away, and also have lifelink, and there's no, forced sacrifice to it as well. So, yeah, you can keep it around. So an aristocrat-style strategy, a life gain-style strategy, that likes to have, a lot of different instances of life gain, a go-wide strategy, a token strategy, annoying procession-type fun. You can do a lot of crazy things with that. And, yeah, I was going to say Goblin, too, but, typically Goblin decks aren't in Boros. That being said, this is going to see a good amount of play for both parts of it. Moving on. Storm Shriek Feral, a 3/3 dragon for 5 mana. Omen, draw a card. Oh, sorry, discard a card. There we go. If you just draw a card, and then if you do draw 2 cards, that'd be draw 3 cards for 2 mana. That'd be amazing. There we go. So discard 1, draw 2. It is sorcery speed. We do have, obviously, quicker ways to do that. We've got instant speed ways these days for the, kind of like rummage effect, plus, an additional card. That being said, flying haste, and you've got bad fire breathing on this as well. The 2 mana to give it +1/+0 until end of turn. I mean, could it see play like in some dragon decks? Maybe. Because it is, well, a dragon, obviously, and it can be card advantage for you, obviously. Is it going to see play in all that many decks out there? I don't think so. I don't think it's quite going to make the cut. But again, some people like to be like, okay, like every single card in my deck is a dragon, and I've got dragons that can fill the roles of, removal and then card draw, and then this can actually fill one of those roles. So there you go. Moving on. We've got Glacial Dragon Hunt. There's some really cool art on this one. A sorcery for 2 mana, and is it draw a card, then you may discard a card. We discard a null card this way, 3 damage to our creature, and you can harmonize it out of your graveyard. So yeah, I mean, that is a nice low-to-the-ground kind of looting effect, and also being able to potentially take out something like a low-to-the-ground, like Thunderbolt, Lightning Bolt. My goodness, it is early. I need more coffee. I just said Thunderbolt. Oh my gosh. Harmonize out of your graveyard. You can do that too. Oh, the comments are going to be crazy on that. Okay, here we go. So yeah, you can recast it, which can be quite nice as well for your Thunderbolt. There we go, Pikachu. All right, moving on. Kishla Trawler is a 3/2 human citizen for 3 mana in blue. When it enters, you may exile a creature card from your graveyard. When you do, return target instant source card from your graveyard to your hand. I mean, like, on an ETB, that's quite solid. There are only so many ways to actually get instant sorceries back from your graveyard. At this price, again, for a 3 mana ETB, you do have to get rid of a creature card out of your graveyard, though, so that's a pretty steep requirement, because there's going to be times where you're like, well, I've got amazing instant sorceries I want on my graveyard, but I don't have any, creatures in there, so I can't do this. Yeah, maybe you'll see play in, like, some ETB decks. We'll see. Next up, Unsparring Boltcaster, a 3/3 Ogre Wizard for 3 mana in red. When it enters, it deals 5 damage to our creature opponent controls. It was dealt damage this turn. That's more of a limited card. Typically, you won't really see that kind of, requirement on just a 3/3. You're like, oh, yeah. All right, well, I have it enter. Oh, nothing got damaged? Oh, okay, well, then it doesn't do anything. It's a 3/3 for 3. Yay! Better than Hill Giant. Moving on! Teamer Tawnyback, a 4/3 beast for either 6 mana or 3 mana, depending on what you pay in Teamer. When this creature enters, draw a card, discard a card, or somewhere in between, I should say. It could be 4 or 5. Good for it. Enters, draw a card, discard a card. Yeah, I mean, like, it is technically like a 4/3 for just 3 mana if you've got the pips for it. That being said, there are better, card advantage ETBs out there. It's very cute, though. Yeah. Moving on. Revival of the Ancestors. Starting off at 4 mana in Abzan. The first lore counter is create 3/1/1 spirit creature tokens. The second one is distribute 3 counters among 1, 2, or 3 target creatures you control. And the third one is creature control gain trample and lifelink until end of turn. That could be quite nice, obviously. I mean, yeah, go wide at first, distribute some counters, and then also trample, lifelink. That can be nice. Yeah, I mean, like, for a go wide strategy potentially, or like a counter space strategy potentially, proliferate strategy, obviously you can speed things up with this with proliferation. And of course, like, maybe like Saga, ETB, use and abuse, that could be good as well. Moving on, Scavenger Regent, 4/4 dragon for 4 mana in black. This one's got an Omen, Exude Toxin for X black. Each non-dragon creature gets -X until I have turn. Yeah, it shuffles back in your library. You can get that multiple times in the game. Flying Ward, discard a card. Yeah, this is one of the better Omen cards that we've seen. The other ones are just like, pretty low to the ground. This one's like, oh yeah, it's definitely going to see play in Dragon decks. It is a potentially one-sided board wipe for you that you could potentially get back again, or again, it's just a 4/4 flyer for, in an Ur-Dragon deck, 3 mana, or discard a card, so decently difficult to deal with. So, yeah, removal when you need it, great removal when you need it. It's definitely going to see some play. Next up, we've got some Commander Precon spoilers from the Abzan deck. And, yeah, Good Boy Dog is here. It's very cute. 2/4 Dog Druid for 4 mana in green. Arbor. There we go. Adherent. Tap at 1 mana of any color. Tap at X mana of any 1 color. X the greatest toughness among other creatures you control. Yeah, we've seen, like, certain ones that do something similar to this, like greatest power among other creatures you control, or its own power. I believe this is the first time that we're getting, like, other toughness mentioned. So yeah, if you've got like a walls strategy, if you've got like a defender strategy, if you've got a big toughness strategy, you can make an absurd amount of mana with this really, really quickly. It's going to be quite fun. Of course, there's some infinite combos with it as well, pretty easily. All you need is like a creature that can give you, 4 toughness essentially, and you're going to be there with certain cards out there like, yeah, infinite tap on tap, infinite mana, infinite all other things. I win. Have fun. Next up, Canopy Gargantuan, a 7/7 dragon for 7 mana, flying Ward 2. Wizards, stop throwing Ward 2 on things that don't need Ward 2. Beginning of your upkeep, put a number of counters on each creature you control equal to that creature's toughness. This is pretty crazy. This is just pretty insane. It is 7 mana, sure, but an Ur-Dragon, it's 6. So you get a 7/7 flying Ward 2. It doesn't pump itself, but it's pumping everything else, and again, it's based on toughness. Whoop-de-doo. Your toughness is going to be huge for your dragons, of course. Or again, if you just got like a stompy deck, yeah, this is going to be like, oh, okay, cool, my Gigantosaurus. Awesome, what's your toughness? 10. Okay, cool, now you're at 20. Awesome, good for you. Next turn, even more. Next turn, even more. Doubling it up again and again and again, of course, works well. Doubling season counter synergies as well. This is a Haymaker type card. And again, Wizards, it did not need Ward 2. Why, Wizards? Why? Moving on. Jaws of Defeat. I've been defeated by Wizards with their Ward 2. Enchantment for 4 mana in black. Whenever a creature you control enters, target opponent loses life equal to the difference between the creature's power and its toughness. Kind of like a Warstorm Surge-ish, but lower to the ground. And again, very specific on differences of power and toughness. Again, it can go either way. Creature's got a bunch of power, not a lot of toughness. Cool, good for you. There are certain commanders out there that like make 3/1s, like Circar, whatever that name is. The one in Jund. There you go. You know what I'm talking about. Sirac? No, that's not that one. Anyways, making 3/1s, being like, oh yeah, just ping things for 2 every single time one of those comes into play, which can be quite nice. But of course, there's bigger differences out there, especially if you've got like an Abzan, toughness matters kind of deck, and all of a sudden you're like, okay, for 2 mana, I play a 0/7. Okay, cool, that's 7 damage to anyone. Yay! Or loss of life, I should say, not damage, but still. Yeah, it's basically Warstorm Surge without the targeting anything with damage. It is just loss of life, but still quite nice and great for those decks. Again, like, Toughness tribal decks are going to love this one. Next up, Protector of the Waste, a 5/5 dragon with flying for 6 mana in total in white. When it enters, it becomes monstrous. Brought that back. Yay! Exile up to 2 target artifacts and enchantments controlled by different players. Monstrosity for 3. I mean, that's very solid. Yeah, very, very, very solid. It is controlled by different players, so there are going to be times where you're like, oh, I wish I could just get rid of both your things. But this is kind of like Angel of the Ruins, basically, but technically lower to the ground. And, Angels obviously are a very popular creature type as well, but dragons are definitely the most popular out there, I believe. So yeah, Ender Dragons be like, that's just 5 mana removal? Cool! And then of course you can just remove more things when you monstrosity it, and then it's an 8/8 flyer too. So yeah, this is gonna see some play. Yeah, it definitely will. Cool. Moving on. Rampart Architect, a 3/4 Elephant Advisor for 4 mana in green. When this creature enters or attacks, create a 1/3 white wall creature token with Defender. Go build that wall over there. Go build that wall over there. Good job with that wall. Cool, good for you. Alright, whenever a creature you control with Defender dies, you may search life for a basic land card with that card on the battlefield, tap, then shuffle. This is going to see a ton of play for creatures. I mean, for decks out there that utilize a bunch of Defenders, this is just money for you. Again, on ETB, you already start off with a 1/3, so this is like in total like a 4/7 across 2 bodies, which is quite nice. But of course, on top of that, literally, whenever any creatures die, you're just like, oh yeah, tutor up a basic, good for me. Tutor up another basic, good for me. Arcade Strategy is going to be like, I'm just so excited about this kind of a card. Again, when Defenders come into play, you draw a card, and then when they leave play, you go and get a basic land. You're going to run out of basics pretty quickly once you do this enough times. Yeah, it's quite good. Again, you can, of course, use and abuse this ETB with Blink decks as well. Attack trigger decks again. Wolfgar, there you go. This is one for you, okay? Ishin can't use it, but yeah. This is a really, really cool card for, especially for, very specific strategy out there. Next up, Reunion of the House. Everyone, come to my house. Let's go party. Okay, cool. Sorcery for 7 mana. Return any number of target creature cards with total power 10 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. Exile it. Any number of target creature cards with total power 10 or greater. Okay, so, or 10 or less. 10 or greater would be crazy. But yeah, being able to just get a bunch of creature cards back out of your graveyard, that can be quite nice, of course, if you've got a low-to-the-ground strategy. This is kind of like, oh gosh, that one Mutate commander in Abzan, essentially, but yeah, kind of just with a sorcery version of it. I mean, if you do have, again, a Defender deck, you're like, oh yeah, bring everything back, because they'll have like 0 power, basically. So yeah, for those kinds of decks, it is just bring everything back out. Cool, awesome, good for me. And then when they die, you go and get all those lands. The last one I talked about, so have fun. Can definitely be a game-changing card for sure. And then we've got Tip the Scales, sorcery for 3 mana in total in black. Sacrifice a creature. When you do, all creatures get -X, -X, so if you're X, sacrifice creature's toughness. This is, obviously a callback to a certain card, Toxic Deluge, anyone? It is obviously not as easy to pull off. It is still a very good card, though. It is one that is a flexible piece of removal. It does cost you sacrificing a creature to do so. That being said, there are certain types of decks out there that don't care about sacrificing a creature. Riskrat style decks, though they might not have, the right amount of toughness out there, essentially, on the board for them to really make the most of this. It just really depends on the deck. It is one where, again, it's just 3 mana for a board wipe. If you just actually want to clear the board completely and you say have like a very powerful commander with a lot of toughness, you're like, oh, okay, cool, yeah. I guess I'll just sacrifice my commander because it's going to take it out anyways, and then take everything out. But of course, if you've got a deck that like has a decent amount of toughness, again, a defender tribal deck, you know, essentially, you're like, okay, I'll sacrifice my lowest defender. Cool, you've got like 6 toughness. Awesome. That takes out every other creature on the board that's not mine, essentially, and all of a sudden, I have all the creatures, and then I probably win. So again, Toxic Deluge, this is not, because you can't just be like, whatever amount I need. It's dependent on your board, and you have to give up something to do so. You don't have to lose any life, but life is a bit easier in Commander. Still, it's a very cool new card, for sure. And with that, this episode is coming to a close. Comment below with your thoughts on it, and of course, as always, thanks again, and have a good one. This show and episodes like this one are possible thanks to viewers like you. If you're looking for an easy way to help support this show, make sure that you like, share, and subscribe. Also, hit that bell notification icon so you don't miss any new episodes. You can also go check out our playmats and other merchandise at thecommandersquarters.com. Another easy way to support this show is with our TCG player affiliate links. So whether you're buying a deck or individual cards, you can use this general link right here or one in the description. And the final way that you can support this show is by supporting us directly by becoming a patron. There are many benefits to being a patron, and I truly couldn't do this without all of their support.